This is an amazing book. This book has so many exercises in it, but you can't just sit here and drink your tea and flip through the pages of this book. You have to do the activities in them. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We are going to practice with this lizard. Not a ton of people voted, but people did vote on the YouTube community section for the Nature Journal show. And those people voted for this page right here. Drawing lizards. It's a step-by-step by John Muir Laws, and we're going to do it right now. So get your chocolate ready. Get your drawing tool ready. No, don't use this. I would recommend graphite pencil, or if you have the non-photo blue pencil, use that. And then you're also going to need watercolor. You might want a hairdryer too. So before jumping in, I'm just going to tell you that I'm really excited that I created a slightly different new lighting setup here. So hopefully it's a little bit brighter than it was before, because it didn't seem ideal. So I'm still adjusting that. And the mic is in a different place. So let me know if there's any weird noises. I'm going to say hi to the people here in the chat. Super grateful that Ivea, Angie, and Eli are all here tonight. It looks like there's some other people watching, and this is live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Nature Journal Club page, and then of course the YouTube channel. Go ahead and post comments in the little live chat box if you're around. Ooh, Leslie is here too. Okay, great. So you can probably already see on my page that I am using a graphite for this underdrawing, and I did some little warm up. So before we actually go into the step-by-step, let's just warm up our hands by practicing some of these basic corn doggy shapes and posture lines, and just getting our hand moving. I feel like you can kind of tell that this was sketched by a right-handed person. All of these shapes are really should flow pretty easily. If you're right-handed, I feel like the mirror direction would be easier if you're left-handed. At least for me, drawing like a lizard's body this way, I think would be a little bit. If you want to really warm up your brain, go ahead and try reversing this shape. I mean, mirroring this shape. Is mirroring and reversing the same thing? Oh, maybe I should ask some lightning round questions today and have people who are joining in to do this practice session answer lightning round questions in the comments. Let me know what you think about that idea. I have heard people say that the lightning round is their favorite part of the Nature Journal show. So let me know in the comments how you feel about participating in a little lightning round action today. Okay, so that's a great warm-up right there. Ooh, Karen's here too. I know it's really faint, but that's what we should be going for. So this is really good practice, is just doing something over and over and over again, especially before you dive into this. So like, if you think about it, we're about to invest time in this, lots of time in getting these sort of details in. So putting in a small amount of time to just warm up your ability to draw these shapes is going to be really helpful than just starting this foundation without even being warmed up. So I would say fill like half a page with those sort of warm-ups. Sometimes it actually can kind of look cool on the page too. I'm not actually going to read this whole section here. It is very interesting, especially this part about the toes is very interesting to notice, and the head. But I think just for the sake of time, we should dive right into step number 1. So it says, block in the proportions of the head, body, and tail with light lines. So it doesn't say anything about the posture line, but I think go ahead and try to do that first. So on a lot of animals, getting this sort of gestalt of their posture line is really important to giving like the overall sense of that animal. often more important than the details on the animal. So paying attention to that and getting that line and then putting in the proportions is often a good idea. If you are trying to sort of build this would be called like the armature in an art class. And I think that comes into English from French. But okay, so I almost started with my head, but I'm gonna go back and draw the posture line here. That'll be mine. Now I'm gonna go for these proportions. And this isn't you can already see that this is, well, I was way more stiff with this one than my warm-ups, that's for sure. One thing I'm going to correct on mine is I'm noticing the majority of the mass on this body section is below the posture line. And the head is also most below the posture line. So I'm going to fix that. That's a major thing to notice. And the fact that we have a line here, is really helpful. If I were just sort of sketching this the way I often draw in the field, I would not have noticed that detail. And it's actually not a detail. It's a sort of foundational thing about the way this animal is shaped. So I'm going to adjust that. I hope you kind of saw that process there and maybe can check that on yourself. A lot of times this sort of relationship there and this, where is that line? Is that central line is most of the way above it or below it? That has a really big effect on the way something looks. And even if we don't sort of intellectually or consciously understand that, our eyes understand that when we look at something and it doesn't look right. Okay. All right, I shouldn't be erasing stuff in here really yet. Okay, so step number 2 is establish the locations and angles of the eyes, shoulder, and pelvis. I mean, ideally we would be drawing off of like an animal or a specimen or a photo. We're drawing off of a drawing, so we just kind of have to follow his, when it says establish the locations and angles of the eyes, shoulders, and pelvis, we're just basing that off of his drawing. So however you need to do that with the head. So it sort of looks to me like this line right here is the middle of this overall shape. And then these are evenly spaced. And notice how they are, they're more perpendicular to like the imagined ground, I guess, than they are to the central line. They're not really parallel with these other things. So try to pay attention to that. I think that's important. You'll notice there's this like, I don't know how much of a degree of an angle. It's almost like a 45-degree angle here of difference in those two lines. Oh, cool. Gabby is here. And then there's someone who is watching on Facebook. Welcome to the show. We're just getting started. We started with building this armature for this lizard that we are going to get this far. We're going to paint and get a little lizard illustration going on here from John Muir Laws, amazing book. Okay, so now I got my head. Now I'm going to go into this shoulder line. I'm noticing his head overlaps into the body shape more. And that this first shoulder line overlaps the head a little bit in this circle here. See that? So make sure you notice that. I also have to remember I'm drawing mine slightly larger than his. So oops, the angle's not right. So notice it looks like these hips are there's an angle here as well. They don't look parallel to each other. And these look slightly wider. Okay, that's number 2. Let's go to 3. Hopefully my book won't fall off the back with this new arrangement, testing out a new lighting and mic setup to make this as clear as possible. It still looks dark on my screen, but I'm do have two different lights directly on the paper right now. Ooh, that's kind of good. All right. Even though it's blocking the camera a little bit now. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Indicate the locations and angles of the legs. Okay, so now we're just focusing on the legs. We can just copy his, or you can pretend like you're doing it off of the lizard over here. That might be easier for you watching the screen than the way I have the setup here. Is kind of a weird angle. So this one looks like it's coming a little bit forward. I'm going to block in just like he did this part and block in this part. I don't think that's the foot. That might be the, I don't know, maybe that is the foot. Okay. And then this, I'm going to do this front one now, kind of long-ish. Talk to yourself while you're doing these kind of things, and it's scientifically proven to improve your observation skills. So, okay, I see this one coming basically straight down. Oh yeah, it's also definitely not in front of the one on the other side. So I see it kind of coming straight, as in perpendicular to the ground or the bottom of my paper, but not very long, basically same as the last one. Okay, this looks a little bit longer, and I'm blocking it in, basically even width throughout. And then there's this sort of jelly bean down here. So one really great thing about nature journaling is it makes talking to yourself socially acceptable, at least as long as you're among other nature journalers. So yeah, talking to yourself, it's the new trend. I'm going to start a class for Google execs and Facebook execs, teaching them how to talk to themselves as a thinking strategy. So let me know if you're into that idea or have any connections with any execs from any of those companies. Okay, so this is one of my favorite parts here, and this is where you can start getting darker. I think I should have probably been more pale with this pencil. This might actually be a time to not use 2B. I think I have 2B in here, but this would probably be actually a good time to use HB, or maybe even slightly lighter. Or if you have, like Jack does, the non-photo blue pencil, you could be using that. Or just have a lighter hand than I do. I'm a little bit heavy when I'm doing this armature. Okay, so step number 4, we're blocking in. This is one of my favorite parts. This is kind of what I skip straight to when I'm drawing animals in the field. So I'm going to get these angles here. And get these angles. Talk to yourself. It's the thing. Yeah. It only works if you're talking to yourself about what you're looking at. If you're talking to yourself about other unrelated things, that doesn't actually improve your observation skills, but still doesn't make you seem crazy. Okay, and then this one's dark there. Angle. Think about angles. Little butt part of the tail. Man, I suck getting line variation with pencil. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. I should say, I wonder if I would get better line variation with pencil if I practice more. Or I wonder how people whose line variation with pencil I like make marks. Oh, I'm totally noticing right now. Okay, so this is interesting, and this might be about how your brain works, but this whole blocking in thing is making me notice that this leg is way closer to the top of the tail than mine. I don't know if you can see that, but look how big it is on mine. That is totally wrong. Like, look at right there how skinny that is. So that is, I'm going to correct that whole leg. So your brain, maybe it's the way my brain works, but I definitely noticed that more than I noticed. Maybe this would be the only time for me to notice it. But that is the whole point of this blocking in, is you can realize, oh, this shape is not right. This still looks really weird to me in my mind because I'm not looking at the finished lizard, and this, just the way he's blocking this in, seems kind of weird. So if this part, I'm going to make a note in my book, and maybe it's just me. Post in the comments if that part was hard for you too. This part was hard for me. Yes. It's about, we're about 15 minutes in the show, and I have to mention metacognition. This part was hard for me. If it doesn't get meta by the 15-minute mark, then it's not the Nature Journal show. Okay. Maybe I can make like a tally over here, and then next time I do this, if it's hard, I'll tally again. No, that probably wouldn't make sense. Unless I had tallies from multiple people who do it for the first time. Okay, now, distracted. Okay, so we got to number 4. Oh, did I get the head part? Yeah, I guess I did. Okay, we got to number 4, and now we're going to go on to the next page. Let me check the comments here. Oh, Sandra's here. Hi, Sandra. Oh, thanks, Eva, for sharing which page it is. I get what you're saying, Yvette. Okay, now we're going to go to this. Let me see how I can show this at the same time that you can see my drawing. Oh, that'll work. Great. Yes, the chocolate for this evening, also found at Grocery Outlet. No, I'm not sponsored by this chocolate company or by Grocery Outlet, but this is just my reminder that eating chocolate while you're nature journaling, especially when you're doing something like this, is highly recommended. My new lighting definitely makes this chocolate look really good. I'm not usually a huge fan of the stone ground, but or random stuff in chocolate, like nuts and fruit. Actually, I like it just straight chocolate, but it was 80%. So I decided to try it. 80% is pretty high for a chocolate that has almonds or adulterants like that in it, but it seems like, I don't know. Anyways, chocolate break. And then we're going to start over here on this side. Yay, we have someone joining from Florida. Ooh, someone saw an alligator lizard. Yes, the legs can be really awkward to draw. One thing I think that you can't tell from over here, and that's making me confused about my own drawing, is that what you can't see is this line right here that shows you that I guess either the body is bigger or that there's this overlap there and this leg's coming out that way. So it's sort of in this weird position where it looks like this is flat and the rest is curved. Okay. So now we're going over here. This is where the rubber is really going to start hitting the road. And now it's going to actually matter sort of what your line variation or the quality of your line looks like. So I'm actually going to sort of lighten my eraser lines. This would be a good time to use a kneaded eraser. Where's my kneaded eraser? I need my kneaded eraser, but it was on the other side of the room. For a long time, I didn't know why you would need one of these. And then now that I know, then I make sure to knead mine before I use it every time. But the cool thing is, look how it changes color and it's basically like new again. And you can actually push it down and just lift up that way. That's the most subtle way. Like you can see the lines of the lizard on the eraser there. So you can actually, and this is good if you have watercolor down or something you don't want to smudge like ink and you still have graphite, you can just push it down like that and lift it straight up. See how that line came out right there? It's pretty amazing. And now I'm just going to softly kind of go in there and use it as a regular eraser, but you can make it into whatever shape you want. So that's this is probably one of the most under-recognized, like well-designed kind of inventions, even though it's just about the material. It's not necessarily about the design, but look, it's a shape-shifting eraser. Now I have that really sharp edge. I could do teeny stuff. It's self-cleaning or basically like regenerating. You can regenerate it almost infinitely from what I've seen. And look, it's like brand new again. So for whoever's asking about how we're doing this, what I'm doing is I'm doing step by step. And if you have the book at home, you could be looking at this as what you're kind of pretending is the real lizard you would be drawing from. These steps would work if you were looking at a real lizard in the field, but we're just going to build the drawing according to his depiction here. It looks like there's already chocolate inside this book. So if you want to, you could be looking at that on my screen and basing your drawing and maybe like getting ahead a little bit. You probably will get ahead of me because I'm talking while I'm doing this. Okay, so we're going to this one right now. So what that means is I highly recommend doing this part if you're just catching up. You could catch up with us if you start here. We did do some warm-up sketches at the beginning just to kind of practice that body shape and just get our hands warmed up. So that's something that you can always do. And if you ever want to, you could like come back and add legs and stuff onto these and add on to those. Sometimes when you have multiple drawings going on the same page, it could take pressure off of this one. Like I have all these warm-ups here, so that sort of takes pressure off of it. But if I want to start just messing around with the blocking in, for example, I could always do that up here before I try it on my main lizard. So that's like a pro tip right there. Super pro, super tactical. But having all of these up here now gives me a place to practice specific things that I might be a little bit worried about before I do them on this, because this is going to start feeling more precious. Okay, so someone mentioned lizard poo. I don't know if you're trying to get me on a tangent that is fascinating to me, but I'm going to try not to go there. And I'm going to try to do this part because some of you are probably already ahead of me on that one. Okay, so it looks like, and I'm going to talk to myself while I do it because hopefully that'll help me. I'm going to try to get this back in all in one line here for my quality of line. This looks like it. Also notice the heel of my hand is on here, so that's not ideal. So knowing that if my drawing comes out not so great, that I can just blame it on that aspect of my journal is really helpful, because then I have like a scapegoat and don't have to, own up to my lack of patience or whatever with myself. Okay, so little mouth there. For me, that part looks like kind of fake, even in his drawing of it. Mouths on snakes and lizards, I feel like a lot of times is a hard spot. If your lizard doesn't or snake doesn't look realistic, just don't draw the mouth is sort of my recommendation. A lot of them don't have a line. A lot of animals don't really have this line where their mouth is. And for some reason, we fixate. Our brain has evolved to pay so much attention to facial expressions from the mouth and eyes. I just noticed that this should be angled down a little bit more that way. Our brain is so good at paying attention to eyes and mouths that in our mind, those things are bigger than they really are. And so when we draw animals, we often over focus and overestimate the size of those parts of the face, or the face in general. And right when I said not to do that, I did it again. Whatever. I'm going to leave that and come back to it later. If it really needs it, I'll put the mouth. But I actually think that is a common thing that will make your reptiles look weird, is the mouth. Okay, now don't make the toe. Same thing with the toes. I'm sort of surprised he didn't block these in or whatever first, or like put in sort of just lines where they're at. If you're trying to get the angles just right, which is more important than the shape of the fingers, is start with just scarecrow claws coming out, and that will help you the most. I think I'm gonna zoom the camera in a little bit more. Actually, it's not a zoom, it just like moves up and down. You won't be able to see as much, but it'll be closer. And I might need to do that again pretty soon. I'm just trying to make sure that my drawing and his drawing are both visible. That's the hard part with how I have this set up right now. Maybe I can try. Is that better? That might be better for this, at least for this part where we're at right now. It makes it hard for me because we just changed the positions of the angle that I'm looking at things on here. Kind of can make it hard. Hopefully that makes it easy for you all to see. Okay. This leg to me is now looking way different from that one. So I'm actually going to modify this a fair amount. Yeah, I feel like on his armature, it makes it way fatter than it is. So we're shaving down the lizard a little bit here with some of these stages. Part of me wishes I had just started with this one now. I know I just told everybody to start with all of this, but now I'm going to try this again and start sometime just from that. Okay, so now just pay attention to the way these toes angle back so much. The first one kind of looks like it's coming straight out. Then there's two sort of in the middle, and the really long one, and the second longest one. Now, if you look too long, even if you draw these perfectly from a lizard that you're really looking at, a lot of times when you look back at them, you're like, that cannot be how their toes really are, but it actually could be because they're really weird, and then they like bend back crooked sometimes. Mine looks like some kind of weird modern art or like Freddy Krueger or something. But I'm not going to let my sort of like doubts affect me too much right now because I'm doing this for pencil miles and that tail is way too skinny. At least, yeah, that is way too. How does it taper down? These are the things I shouldn't be doing in this kind of like, see how I'm kind of scratching it out? These are the things ideally you're making marks that are more like, and I can make marks like that, I think, with pen, but for some reason with pencil, my marks just end up being, like uncertain, tentative, scratchy marks instead of like flowy, confident marks. So I didn't get the curve really quite right in the tail, but I'm not going to really worry about that too much. I'm going to keep going. So if you can see that, try to pay attention to that. Okay, now I'm going to go to this leg. Let's bust this out. Longest, third longest, fourth longest, shortest. Okay. Looks like there's a teeny little bit of the other leg that is visible on that side. All right, I'm going to clean things up just a little bit in here so they're not confusing me. Oh, look at all the eraser crumbs from that eraser. Jeez. Maybe I can eat them with my kneaded eraser can just eat those crumbs up. Yeah, great. Another use. They're also, you can use these if you don't have any like chewing gum or whatever, you can just chew on these. Oh, Andrew's here. Good to see you, Andrew. Thanks for glad you could join in for a little bit, or if you have to come back and watch it later. Okay, yes, I'm gonna do lightning round questions for anyone who's participating in the chat. You can type in answers. So let me go to my first. Let's see here. First lightning round question coming soon. Let's see here. All right. First lightning round question. Brace yourself for the first lightning round question is, have you ever fallen asleep while nature journaling? Go ahead and post in the comments if you've ever fallen asleep while nature journaling. I don't know if Ray Bonto might actually, I might have to change that one because I think Ray Bonto might be the only person that I know that has fallen asleep while nature journaling. Okay, now I'm noticing my back needs to be a little bit flatter, so I'm gonna. Okay, actually, I'm gonna skip to the next question. Okay. In the nature journaling Olympics, which event would you compete in? If you were in the nature journaling Olympics, which event would you participate in? Oh, it sounds like maybe Eli was falling asleep. I feel like our culture has inherited some puritanical kind of shaming about sleep, especially like naps or sleeping in late in the morning. And I don't know if that's really, I know as a morning person and as a person like in this culture, I think I've sometimes fallen into that sometimes without kind of analyzing it. But I do think that we have some inherited some cultural baggage that's not really helpful necessarily around sleep. So definitely not trying to shame anyone on that. Okay, so now we are doing our nature journal powers. What is your nature journaling superpower? Oh, so maybe Eli was talking about that. Um, okay, interesting powers. I mean, no, this isn't powers. This is Olympic events, nature journaling Olympic events. Okay, I obviously need some more of this like this tea that's supposed to be like supporting of your brain processes because it has like mushrooms and whatever in it. No, just kidding. It's like Tulsi Rose. This is like my favorite decaf tea. Actually, it's so friggin' good. I don't know if if you all have tried this, but it smells amazing, like roses, and it's just super good. Oh, nice. Okay, those are some cool Olympic events. All right, I'm gonna keep going here. This tea is supposed to help me focus, supposedly. Oh, now it's gonna start getting scary. Okay, so this is going to get scary here with all of these lines coming in. Oh, I'm seeing that this is sort of showing the edge of the back. I did not really see that before. Oh, he's so sneaky how it's also a little bit blue, and blue is sort of one of the undercolors of this lizard. Okay. That is definitely a benefit to using non-photo blue pencil for the underdrawing. Okay, so I guess I should have pointed out that if you're using non-photo blue pencil here on this side where we got started, then you should have switched to graphite or something else when you got up here. Shoot, I should have pointed that out. Ooh, I like this one here. This is a funny this would be a funny Olympic event. That has happened. Let me know who else has had that happen to them. That's definitely happened to me. The tea is it's the company is Organic India and it is called just Tulsi Sweet Rose. So it has the Tulsi basil, which is really good, and then it has rose in it also. Okay, so the scary part. So he says suggest scales and eyelids. Scale rows on the body will be at a diagonal to the body axis. Scale rows on the tail will be at right angles to the body axis. So let's start with the tails. This will build our confidence up a little bit. But basically, this is the body axis going this way, and the scales are going to be at right angles to the body axis. And so they're going to be perpendicular. First, I'm going to lighten this. I don't want this top line of the lizard to be so strong. And then I'm going to do some lines that are parallel to the tail. Maybe starting where it's fattest and losing some of them as you go down, but keeping others. Okay, so I got those lines in. Now I'm going to assume I'm looking at it like sort of this way. And I'm going to wrap these scales going this way. So making them curved like a really open C. If you want, sometimes it's worthwhile. If you want, like on one of the lizards up here, you could go like this and draw these ellipses, like imagining if the lizard tail were cut into like a bunch of really thin slices, it would look like this. And by practicing those ellipses, you can get warmed up for the ones down here. I know this is really faint on the camera. Okay, and then somewhere here, it's going to transition. So I think this is a little bit harder. I think that the leg might be an easier place to start. So let's pretend like there's a circle wrapping around. See how I drew that circle there wrapping around the leg? I'm going to zoom it in more, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my table. So it's going to be a little bit noisy. Look, this is a fancy way to zoom in. Just lift the table up and down. I know the noise is probably annoying. Oh, we've got lots of people in the art supply. That's going to be a tough competition in that one because I feel like half of the people that ask that question say that as their answer. Okay. So now we've got that line there, but what we want, so this is the axis, say. What we want is to go diagonal to that. So I start wrapping this way. This part can be kind of fun. You're like doing a wrapping around this leg. So if it were, I could do a practice leg right here. Oops, that's not the way it's angled. It's angled more like this. And then practice doing these shapes. All of these shapes take practice. Like the better you get at all these little ellipses and stuff, the better you'll get at drawing like three-dimensional animals or trees. Okay, so I got that. Now I'm going to come down here. I'm going to skip the knee part because that's what he did. Very sneaky. Sneaky move there. He's probably just kind of making these scales up, which is good to know how to just suggest the scaliness without actually getting in there and counting them, which can be sort of overwhelming. Now, the exception to that is on the head because the way a lot of reptiles, and he didn't even do those, this is the part where the shape and number of those scales are defining characteristics of those lizards. So, and snakes. So you can't just make that up. That would be like, oh, I'm drawing a human face and I just add 3 eyes. That would be probably a detail you wouldn't want to just take artistic license with. So same with the lizard. Don't draw 3 eyes on it or random scales on the head. Okay, but we're going to do random scales on the leg. So go ahead and do the same thing on this one. Come back the other way. And then over here, we're just going to go like this and like this. Okay, done with those. Okay, now to this. I'm going to do the stomach first. So pretend like it's wrapping around it this way. Wrapping around it almost like ribs, and then it's going to come the opposite way, but it's also wrapping around sort of the belly. So give it some curve as it comes down to the belly. Don't just make it a straight. I wouldn't make it just a straight line. This can be hard. It's not super easy, but see how it kind of gives it. Yes, I think this applies to the snakes too. I have to do the snakes page is like the 2 pages before or whatever. And I haven't actually gone through. This is one I definitely want to do all of the pages on there because it's a pretty cool one. I kind of want to change the way I want to make this easier to see on the screen. So I think I'm actually going to start. Let's see if I can put, if I were left-handed, this would work really well. It's hard to fit everything on the screen and still have it big enough where you can see the details. So sorry about that. I'm trying to figure out the best way that I can. I think maybe I could slide it under here. Okay, I'm going to ask some more lightning round questions soon. So get ready in the comments if you want to participate in the lightning round. Ooh, hi, Alexandra. Welcome to the show. Okay, now I'm going to do the top. We're still basically on on 6 right here. I'm going to put my table down a little bit. Okay. Now, okay, so these are basically coming diagonal to the axis of the back, but I'm trying to pay attention to, there is a little bit of difference here where the edge of the back there is. So it's kind of where you end this scale group. and end it sort of here at the shoulders. And then I'm going to come through the opposite way. And then on the head, this is the axis straight up and down that way. So I'm going to do them this way. Remember the heads, that part of the head sort of ends there. How does he do this part? Oh yeah, he separates this with a line here. Okay, and then that way. And then this way. Oops, maybe it was smaller than that. Okay. All right, that's it. All right, we did it. Congratulate yourself and eat another piece of chocolate. That was could have been slightly stressful. Okay, now, scales in the eyelids. He said eyelids also. So if you want to add eyelids, or just sort of like kind of work in that detail a little bit more, now is a good time. It looks like it's sort of angled at the top. Oh, Maria is here. Hi, Maria. I know some other people in the nature journaling community, besides Maria, were using these before, but Maria was definitely the one that told me about this. And these are freaking, speaking of fountain pens, I know people were talking about fountain pens, but at least for me, this was kind of amazing to find this because I think there's some, I mean, you can practice drawing and all of that, but I think some people do have certain things that like in some inherent way kind of go with them or work better for them. And this for me, I'm not going to say it's going to be amazing for everybody, but this is definitely like my favorite drawing tool by so much now, these Sailor Fude de Manin. And I use it for all of my like writing, a lot of writing too. And it is, yeah. So thank you, Maria, because you were the one that first told me about that. And I got one right afterwards. Okay, so continuing on, we're going to go do this. So he's saying, draw the rows of dark blotches on the back. If possible, count the blotches. Contour the stripes on the legs around the limbs to suggest roundness. So everything we're doing should be paying attention to the roundness of this lizard. So as we add these blotches, and I think I'm just going to keep working with this 2B graphite pencil. As we do these blotches, imagine they're sort of wrapping around from the opposite side of the lizard. And this would apply to any animal with a spotted pattern. I'm not counting. He said ideally count, but I would count if I were drawing this from a real lizard. But I'm sort of just trying to practice the techniques. Okay, now it looks like these ones kind of come this other way, but make them a little bit bigger and maybe starting further up because this side is, remember, kind of closer to us. But also maybe making them kind of fit with the edges of your scale, even though that's not always the case with animal reptiles. Don't always have their pattern just end like one color end at one scale and not start on the next. So don't assume that the scale border is also the border of the pattern. Does that make sense? Okay, next lightning round question. Everyone who is participating in the chat, answer give your own answer for this lightning round question. Okay, if you could go in a time machine to any time in the future or the past with your nature journaling supplies, where would you go? What time and what place would you travel to with a time machine to go nature journal? Where would your ideal place be? And why, maybe? I don't think anyone who's here has had that question asked to them. So I go through the ink so fast on my my Sailor Fude de Manin because I use the dark so much. let me show a little bit of that. So like this right here is with the Sailor Fude Demonin. And so I can put down these really dark areas. This was looking outside at this tree. And then I can also sketch really fine stuff and can vary the line pretty well, I would say. It's fun for stuff just like this. I have a feeling Bill Watterson. So Bill Watterson's one of my favorite artists to copy. And I think he might have used a fountain pen because I've tried practicing this technique he uses for showing tree contours. I've tried to practice it with a variety of different drawing tools, and it seems like the Fude Demonin works the best. So I'm curious if Bill Watterson might have used a fountain pen for his artwork. Okay, Bill Watterson's the artist who did Calvin and Hobbes. Okay, so now we're going down onto the side. Oh, actually, I'm going to do this part going up the side of the head. He's moving this way with his pencil, but your mileage may vary. Okay, now I'm going to come. This whole side seems sort of dark, so I'm going to kind of try to just do this more quickly instead of building it up all sideways like this, which I think is kind of more similar to the pattern there. And remember here, make it sort of look like it's wrapping around the belly a little bit if you can. Sometimes the pattern, actually a lot of times the pattern on animals is actually sort of working to hide the volumetric shape. And so when you draw that pattern onto the animal that you're trying to make look three-dimensional, that pattern actually evolved to make that animal not look three-dimensional a lot of times. And that is one of the most important things that camouflage can do, is make an animal or a thing not look three-dimensional. Because three-dimensionality is like a really basic thing that happens in your visual system that identifies something to pay attention to. And obviously all animals are three-dimensional. So anyways, so for example, the way that if you look, so many animals have a lighter underside than upper side. And that's the opposite of what you would expect from a three-dimensional object. See how this sphere has a shadow at the bottom? This has the opposite. Uh-oh, sounds like the video froze for Linda. My on my side, my internet looks okay. Oh, I need to come look at what people are posting for the lightning round. Okay, whoa, we've got some cool ones. The Devonian, yeah, the Devonian would be really, and obviously we're assuming you'd be safe and, you know, be able to bring stuff with you to protect you. But hopefully they would not eat Karen while she's drawing. Yep. Oh, 1990s. Oh, wow, that's a cool one, Ivea. Yeah, that is a really cool one, Ivea. Oh, and very good point, Angie, that now is a great time to be nature journaling. That is a very good point. And Marie has a really good question too about tracking nature changes by looking at nature journals. Eli, okay. See what North America looked like before we arrived and wrecked everything. Yeah, cool. Andrew would be checking out, you know, some of the Kumeyaay Nation, the indigenous group in the San Diego, California area, and seeing what they were up to pre-European contact. Really cool. Yes, the Devonian period would definitely be fun. Awesome answers, everybody. Linda, I hope yours is you're not frozen anymore. Okay, hopefully people have been kind of continuing with these blotches. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, there are blotches on the leg. I'm noticing kind of going this way. We could probably also do some of this with our watercolor. So it doesn't have to be perfect. We are basically on the step 7 here. Just getting a few blotches in with our drawing tool, probably a pencil. Oops, I forgot to add scales on this front right leg, but I'm just going to roll with it. Okay. All right, cool, cool. Okay, now we're ready to get into the watercolor. Are you ready for that? All right, cool. So make sure you have something to wipe off your watercolor brush on. And the cool thing is watercolor happens fast, so we might actually be able to, with these last steps, get a lot done quickly. It looks like he added some details on the face, which I'm missing, and I think is making mine not really look like this particular lizard. But I still don't really want to add that mouth. Maybe I'll just slightly suggest the mouth. And it looks like he made the eye dark too. So if you want, go ahead and do that at this stage and leave a little reflection there in the eye. Okay. So my proportions and stuff, I don't know if this is going to actually look like his lizard. But that's okay. We're just doing this for pencil miles. And I'm going to start with my water brush that doesn't put out the water super fast. Okay, so he's saying paint a light ochre wash over the back. There's actually no color called ochre in this palette, his palette. So I assume he's talking sort of about like, I mean, he could be talking about this Monte Amiata Natural Sienna. That's kind of like a yellow ochre. He could be talking about quinacridone gold. Quinacridone gold is really nice, especially when you dilute it. And I think Jack's a pretty big fan of that one. So I'm going to guess that that's the one that he used. Just make sure that it's really well diluted here. So that's why I like having this test paper over here. That looks about right. You can always add more. So that looks about right. And it's a big wash. So having a fair amount already diluted to what you need before you go into big wash is good. All right, so here we go. And it looks like it's pretty much everywhere, less underneath, actually not underneath. So I breathed in a piece of stone ground chocolate. Maybe that's the downside of roughly ground chocolate. I don't know. I'm usually not really that into the stone ground chocolate. I mean, I like the idea of like it being more artisanal or whatever, but and that's cool. Like if it's like traditionally made somewhere, like in Mexico, but like I think in Mexico, they're often turning the stone ground chocolate into hot chocolate that you drink, and then you don't really notice that it's all grainy. So I don't know. That's just me. Maybe post in the comments if you are into stone ground chocolate or what. I mean, maybe it's just like everybody's different kind of thing. I don't know. Okay, so that's plenty yellow. If you did too much and it's still wet, you could lift a little bit up with your little towel thing. Just make sure it's a clean part and while still wet, lift it. That works with a lot of colors, but not all of them. And I haven't memorized all of the ones that are staining and non-staining in my palette, but it is possible to memorize all the ones that you have. I'm going to put a little bit more yellow in these toes, though. Okay, so that dried out really fast, so I'm just going to go on to the next thing and pour myself some more tea. So I am going to the next thing now, and that is enhance the colors if necessary. Here I added an extra wash of ochre across the back, yellow by the back leg, and blue on the belly. I don't get it. How did he get all of that color from the ochre? Mine did not turn out looking that way. It's like not really looking that way. So I think I'm gonna come back and do another brown. Okay. So now we're going to, yeah, so whatever, just figure out what brown you might need to add. I think I'm actually going to go with this. This is whenever I need something brown, I just do this automatically. So I'm going to take this. This is the, oh, what is it called? Bloodstone Genuine. How could you forget a name like that? And then I'm just going to look at what it looks like when I, oh, sorry, Bloodstone Genuine down here. I'm going to take it and put it on top of this yellow, and that looks great. That looks like a perfect color for what I'm trying to do here. So now I'm just going to come in and get some of these places, most of it, but I'm going to make it pretty light. So yeah, I pretty much am just going to leave a couple little random seeming spots with a little bit more of the yellow. But I'm doing more than just my blotches that I did with my pencil. Maybe he did more work with the pencil first, and kind of the yellow ochre did more than the yellow ochre did on mine, but on mine it sort of, yellow ochre did not get it to this stage here. Okay, so you can see I'm sort of just dulling the color and just making it less saturated and more complex by putting a second wash over that yellow in most places, but not everywhere, so that the yellow does poke through a little bit. Yes, that it is true about this. Chocolate is made in Massachusetts. Linda, are you in Massachusetts? Have you been to where they make this? I know that they're one of the big stone ground ones. And here it does have a whole thing, why stone ground. So they're making a case for it for sure. Ooh, look how cool the granulation is on this color right here. That's the Bloodstone Genuine mixed with a little, I think there's a little bit of Monte Amiata Nat Sienna in there. But look at how cool the Bloodstone Genuine is, really good for granulation. Okay, so now enhance the colors if necessary. He added an extra wash of ochre. Okay. Oh, he still did that afterwards. We might still need to do another wash of ochre. And then he also added yellow by the back leg and blue on the belly. So let's go ahead and do yellow first, since it's the cleanest color and closest to what we've been doing so far. So let's get a teeny bit of yellow. And this is where you can overdo it. These are like highlights on this lizard. Unfortunately, my ochre is so yellow that everything looks a little bit yellow, so this won't be as much of like a standout highlight, but I'll put it there. Don't overdo that part. I'm going to start zooming in closer. Okay. That's the sound of my table moving up. I'm cranking it by hand, cranking, and getting a bicep workout. All so that you can see the scales on this lizard better. I should have switched cameras so you could see me raising the table. Oh, now I feel much younger because my chair is really low. Okay. Kid Marley is here. Okay, so let's add a little bit of blue, since that's the next sort of more different color from, you just won't be able to see my mixing areas as much. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit of blue. It looks kind of like, I'm just going to say he went with the ultramarine first, maybe the manganese blue. Ultramarine is probably the most universal one for people though, so grab that one. Make sure it's not too strong, so you can test it over here. You could be testing all this stuff up at the top of your page where you had all those quick sketches too, or sort of down here on the side. You could be doing your little swatches. Oh, you can't even see me down there in the corner. Okay, so now I'm going to add blue down here. Definitely make it lighter before doing this part up here. If you make it too dark, just clean your brush off, clean the brush off, and then come back in and kind of spread it around or soften it. I'm going to copy the way he used that blue with his non-photo blue pencil and put it in intentionally here with my watercolor instead. And I do want to get this darker. I'm going to wait for that blue to dry a little, and then I come through and get this darker. So now all we have to do is try to get these values. See how mine is a way lighter lizard, and then his. So I'm going to try to get it all dark. Okay, bye, Linda. Thanks for joining in today. I'm going to try to get it all like darker and see how mine is more yellow. I'm going to try to do that in sort of like a big wash, and then just get to the last stage of this with, he looks like he's using gouache pen. If you're already at that stage, let me show you. You probably already know the ones that I use. Did I say gouache pen? What I meant to say was opaque pen. So this is the Uniball Signo. That's what I would use on here. So this is for bigger stuff usually, but it only works if your base drawing is dark. So let's try to do this by kind of doing like getting sort of a bigger wash and covering as much as we can in like a big wash. While still sort of like leaving some. I think we over reserved stuff. And I don't think our ochre, or I should speak for myself, I don't think my yellow ochre was as dark as the one that he was using. So I'm just going to get this sort of mix that I have down here based on my Bloodstone Genuine again. I'm going to put a little more Monte Amiata Natural Sienna in it because I see a lot more of that color, I feel like. He might have a different brown that he's using in that part there. Okay, now I'm going to come through and mainly get like, I mean, I should definitely keep these, my pencil marks might not have been as dark as his too. That feels a little bit too dark. Clean the brush off a little bit. I want to just almost touch everything with this. He's doing a lot of finessing with the watercolor that he's not providing a step-by-step for, or that might be sort of hard to explain or kind of come almost intuitively. So if you're at this stage and you're starting to figure like, how did he get to that part? You're not alone. That is what is happening to me right now. I'm also sort of noticing that my pencil does not seem to be, my pencil work does not seem to be showing up as, you know, as much as I wanted it to. And even my color matching feels pretty far off compared to his. Okay. The cool thing about when I have it on document camera is I can pick my nose and not have to worry about it. Oh shoot, I didn't color in this part of the arm up here. Remember, there is another arm over there. And now I can't see my scales basically at all. Whoops. Okay, so it's not looking super great, but I'm going to go ahead and go to like my last step here. And then if you're feeling really bad about it, you can make notes down here, at least to vent. Venting is one of the benefits of journaling and should be utilized more in nature journaling. So you can always write that. So I'm going to write watercolor bit was harder than expected. I'm going to write this in the book also. I believe in writing in books, especially, you know, did I just screw up the watercolor when I slid the book on top? Writing in books. Okay, I'm going to say like more explanation of what I'm just gonna write WC. Hopefully people won't think that's the bathroom, water closet. More explanations of WC question mark. How did he, or I could just write, how did he do the color? I think this isn't in the watercolor or like specific materials section of the book. It's more in the anatomical section. So I think this exercise is mostly about understanding the scales on the lizard and not as concerned with getting the colors. So that being said, I think I'm going to call it on this one. Go ahead and keep working on it if you want to. Sometimes having a drawing that you actually intentionally go past where you normally would is a good practice. So this could be that drawing for you, but it's not for me. So I'm going to stop here. Like I said, go ahead and put some comments on underneath your drawing, any notes, sort of metacognitive notes. I really Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Um, but just had a little technical difficulty. But that is how far I'm going to go with this drawing right now. It was fun, good practice, and thanks for joining in. All of you who posted and joined in, a bunch of you are patrons. I'm going to do a call out for all of the patrons. Thank you so much to everybody who supports me on Patreon. A lot of you were here during the show today, and I'm going to name everybody. So Candy, Amy, Maggie, Valerie, Deborah, Melinda, Shirley, Sylvia, Alex, Stephanie, Diane, Miriam, Marilyn, Amy, Kristen, Eddie, Bethan, Dawn, Akshay, Zephy, Terry, Jesse, Angela, Stacy, Leslie, Margarita, Hannah, Sandra, Tina, Sandra, Julie, Annetta, Barbara, Deborah, Roberta, Sabrina, Stephanie, Loretta, Safira, Amy, Sandy, Terry, Emma, Troy, Karina, Evea, Jean, Suzanne, Helen, Mason, Tiffany, Patrina, Eli, Olga, Kate, Rebecca, Barbara, Kit, Constance, Rose, Karen, Kate, Amy, Deb, and Jan. You are all awesome. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you everyone else who joined in. And keep up the practice. Really, I'm trying to do this because a lot of the nature journaling videos that I do make me a better journaler and hopefully give you the information to be a better journaler. But if you actually do some of these practices with me, you're definitely going to get to be a better nature journaler. So that's my main goal, is to help empower you to see more and to get more out of your nature journaling. So if you can't wait all the way until next week for the next episode of the show, actually there's one coming out twice a week now, check my playlist. I have playlists organized where I just put like a ton of videos in the same category, and often will put in some of Jack's videos and other people's videos that do a good job on that topic. So check out my playlists on my channel if you haven't already. I put a lot of time into organizing those playlists into different topics, such as like how to nature journal birds, nature journaling ideas, nature journaling at home, nature journaling with watercolor. So you can go through those playlists, and there's tons of videos in all of them. All right, thank you, Cindy, Leslie, all of you who joined in today. That was super fun. Have a good rest of your evening. Bye.